Oh, hello everyone. Well, I'd just like to do a nice video at this point. I have hit a red letter day. This is a significant milestone in my lockpicking. When I first started picking, I had this lofty ambition that I would like to pick a lock that is equivalent in difficulty to the lock on my front door, which looked pretty secure. I've looked at that key, it seemed fairly intimidating as a beginner picker, and I finally got hold of a suitable lock. This is a Yale Superior. It's got 6 pins in it, 4 sliders and a sprung sidebar for the sliders, and key looks a bit like this. Not the same bitting as my house key, obviously, but I managed to get it open today, so I thought I would like to do that on video just to celebrate. So here we go, one lock. This Z bar fits in quite nicely there. I'm going to pick it in hand since we're having a party. Walk my way down through the 6 pins in it. Felt the third one click. Yale seem to like putting the security pins in. They've got a small number of them. In the 6-pin one, they've got one at the front and one at the back. In their 7 and 9-pin models, they like to put 2 in at the front and 2 in at the back, but they're always standards in the middle. Presumably that's because either the front of the lock or the back of the lock is what's hard to reach. Okay, I think I've got all the pins at this point. Oh, no, yeah, that was the security pin at the back that hadn't quite set. Now I think I've got all of them. Now I'm going to take my extra slim flag and I'm going to put that vertically down this side to get the sliders. Now as that tip of the pick clicks into a sidebar groove, I can just about feel it and turn the flag to knock the slider into an appropriate gate. 2 of those I'm not feeling anything, and 1 of those I'm feeling way too much resistance. Actually, yeah, the second one I'm not feeling any resistance now. Okay, I think those are all in gates, or not ready yet. Got to do more on the dimple pins. Pin 2 clicked. 4. Nothing on 4. I think that's 5. Could have sworn I had 6 already. I think I must have overset something, dropped a couple of pins in about to say a camera shy lock. The lock doesn't change. The lock is a bunch of brass. It's humans that react differently when they're on camera. I am doing something differently and worse because I'm recording this. What am I doing worse? I'm trying to feel my way through all of these dimple pins, and I think they all feel good. So let's go and revisit those sliders again. Slider flag going in down the side. And feel the grooves that the slider fingers run through, and you can just notch the tip of the pick into them, and then when those are set, you might need to go back to your dimples up top, and there we have it. Just needed to knock dimple number 4 and we've got this open. This seems like a great way to celebrate a great achievement. I'm really chuffed with being able to do this. This is a Yale Superior 3-star kite marked lock, the kind that anyone would feel comfortable sticking on the front door of their house. Myself included, until I managed to get myself into it. And I thought I'd been buying a really secure lock and had done very well with it. Apparently not. I mean, I say that, I still believe this is a very secure lock. It's not quite as good as the higher pinned versions. They do version of this with 7 and 9 pins, as I mentioned earlier, and those come with more security pins in them, as well as a higher pin count generally, which does make them more resistant to picking. But in practical security terms, picking is not the primary attack you're trying to guard against, is it? Right, there we go. Core is out. Dropped the sidebar, but just about caught it. Let the sidebar go and some of the finger pins. Right, that's a small mess. Sidebar goes there. Finger pins, these are these aren't finger pins, these are just some sliders. And the sliders have got these little fingers sticking out of them, which is what the key actually grabs onto. Shoving that closer to the camera isn't what's going to make it focus, is it? It'll be. That's why I keep calling them finger pins. Anyway, it's an inaccurate name. And that will go there. That will go there. That will go there. Should really put those all facing similar directions. There go the key pins. This is a terrible experience, isn't it? Well, I tell you what. I'm going to use this video to show you what happens when you need to recover from a disastrous gutting process. I'm just being careless. I'm really excited about my achievement is what's going on here. I'm getting far too excited and not paying enough attention. There are 4 springs in the bottom of these slider holes and 2 more for the sidebar. I don't care. I'm going to show you these pins from the core. We have a double spool up front. It's your first security pin. Then we've got a bunch of standards. Standard, 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 and then we have one longer security pin at the back. That one is a mushroom pin type arrangement. You can just about see the bottom of that, and that's the pins. Let's get you a quick close up of those. Pins, sliders, core. Nothing really interesting going on in the core. Got these neat little parallel sections of they've got the holes drilled so that it can allow you to have key pins going in at multiple angles. So if I stick a couple of tension is going to be about perfect, and I can stick the Allen key in the other one. They go in at a couple of angles like this, which means that the top of the key pin remains flush with the outside of the core, and it means that when they get to the middle they are almost in a line on the key, because they're going through a cylinder towards the center and the key turns up in the center. So that really interested me when I took this thing apart. Right, how do we get this back together, having made a complete mess of where all of the key pins go? Well, first thing we've got to do is put these pins back in the body, paying attention to which end of the pin needs to face the key in order to interact. As a rule of thumb, the most awkward piece of your driver pin should be at the shear line, which only really matters for the mushroom pin. We've got 4 standards in the middle, and then this really neat and fairly deep double spool. This is the same both ends, so those go back in the body. That's how we fix up the body. And then, oh, I'm dropping springs now, that's lovely. Let's not do that. But let's recover the key pins first. So, to make sure we get the key pins back in the right place, we use a key. I think I dropped them roughly in the right order. That one's wrong. I can see that key pin has sunk far too deep into that hole. That one's standing proud. That one looks right. That one's nice and smooth. That one's gone too deep, which means that at least one of these will stand up above the top of the lock. This is how you work out where these key pins should go. That one's nice and flush, and that one is standing way too high. So what I'm going to do is grab the ones I can grab with the tweezers. So I had those in 2 and 6. That's not where they go. And then in order to grab the others, I'm going to pull the key out and see if they rise high enough to be grabbed at any point. Very nearly. It's kind of easier than upending the whole thing. But not by enough. Okay, we're going to have to tip that one as well. I tipped the wrong one. That was one that was in the right place, and that was key pin 3. That was key pin 4 coming out. Key pin 3 is going back in. I'm clearly in an excellent place to be explaining to you how to do all of this, aren't I? So, you can see those 2 pins are flush with the external side of the lock, of the lock body. We then we've got another key we can use as a template. The very deepest cut is pin number 1, which means that pin 1 is going to be the longest key pin, which looks a lot like this key pin. So I'm going to drop that in. That's flush, neat. Then we have here medium cut, shallow cut. So one of these pins is shorter than the others. This is the short one, that'll go in the end. And these are landing on top of a key, so I can immediately see that this is accurate. That looks accurate. If you have plug holder, really useful at this point to stick it in, make sure it turns. It's a neat way to just prove that it's flush and that you haven't made a mistake. That in place, we are done with the key. Just going to have a peer inside to make sure I can see springs in the 4 slider chambers. I can, which means that we should be able to drop these in and feel them sprung. Now I also dropped 2 of these out, which means it's tricky to make sure I'm getting them back in the right place and the right order. In order to make sure I'm proving that, I'm going to, whilst holding the key pins and the sliders, put the key back in again, and if I've got that right, then the sidebar should be able to drop in. So I'm going to use the plug holder because that'll hold the key pins in while I do this. I'm going to put the second sidebar spring back in, right, that's back in. Now we're going to drop the sidebar on. We're going to drop the sidebar on top of that. Are you beginning to get a clue on why this gutting went badly in the first place? Those springs need to be right at the edges for this to work. And there we go, dropping a key pin because I slipped this out of the plug holder. But the sidebar is fitting. We drop 1 key pin. There we go. That is a set of sliders, sidebar, sprung sidebar. Gotta love them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep the key pins on top, which puts the sidebar on the bottom, not on the side. It goes on the bottom because, I don't know, don't ask me, ask Yale. But now that all of that is in place, I'm going to keep holding the sidebar with my finger and just slide the lock body over the top of this and into position. Pull the key out with the key out, that's going to retain it, and when I took the C-clip off I put it there. The C-clip needs to go back on the back. And here's where I left that. That just clicks back on. Back end of a pair of tweezers is normally firm enough. There we go, we have reassembled a lock, having confirmed that all of the parts went right, back in the right place. And with that, I conclude my celebration of learning to pick a lock that matches one on my front door. Thank you for coming with me for the ride. Laters.